Hello, hello. All right. So the ultimate sleep guide. First, I just got into the science behind sleep, talking about us having a 24-hour circadian rhythm, and then the organic compound adenosine in the brain that increases throughout the day as you become more tired, and that breaks down when you sleep. And then, of course, light influences that circadian rhythm. So as natural light disappears in the evening, the body releases melatonin to induce drowsiness. And then when the sun rises in the morning, the hormone cortisol is released, which promotes energy and alertness. So ideally, it would be really nice if we could go to bed when the sun went down and get up when the sun came up, but we don't have lives like that. We have 4 stages of sleep. So stage 1 is non-REM sleep, and that's just usually several minutes as the transition between our wake and sleep. So it's just that light sleep. We can wake up very easily during that time, but the muscles start to relax, the heart rate, breathing slows, the eye movements even slow right then. And of course, our brain waves calm down and prepare us for stage 2, which is usually about 20 minutes. And stage 2, this stage is what we spend 50% of our sleeping night in. The brain and body just continues to slow down. Then we get into stage 3, which is also non-REM, the deepest part of non-REM sleep. Brainwave activity is different than the waking brain, and the body starts to repair. And that leads us into our deepest sleep, which is our rapid eye movement. That usually occurs the second half of the night. And REM, rapid eye movement is super important because that's where memory and learning happens. Like we really concrete everything that we've learned throughout the day or the week during the REM sleep phase. Brain activity starts to pick up. Most of the body, except the eyes, experience paralysis. And the most of the dreams happen here. And again, I can't emphasize enough how important this stage is for learning. So like kids that are in school, like the kids you work with, if they're skimping on sleep, it's going to affect how much they can retain. And they typically won't do nearly as well on exams and things like that. The sequence. We go through several cycles. So sleep begins with that first stage, and that's a few minutes. Then it goes to NREM2. That ends up being about 20 minutes. Then we go to NREM3. And then we go back to NREM2 before we go into REM sleep. After that's over, the body returns to REM2 and repeats the cycle 4 to 5 times. You can live REM stage 4 to 5 times. Yeah. If you have a good solid 8 hours. Mm-hmm. If you don't, then you might hit REM twice. And so you're not going to have the same learning capacity. You're not going to have the same recovery as you would if you were able to have more time overall in that phase. And so it kind of looks like this. You have your stage 1 for, 5 to 10 minutes. You have stage 2, body temperature drops, heart rate begins to slow, all that good stuff. And this is the one you go back and forth to a lot. Stage 3, then you go back to stage 2 and then to REM. And then why it's so important, I think we all know our immune system will definitely be weakened if we don't get enough sleep, higher risk of type 2 diabetes, obesity, mental health problems, impaired thinking and memory, and mental health issues like depression and anxiety, which go up in there, like depression. How much sleep do you really need? The average adult needs a minimum of 7 hours of sleep, and women typically need a little bit more. So why do women need more sleep? Sleep-wake cycles are governed by hormones, which affect when we feel alert, tired, and hungry. Women experience more hormonal changes that affect the circadian rhythm and the need for sleep. Menstruation can affect sleep due to cramps, bloating, headaches, pregnancy, again, discomfort, restless leg syndrome, depression, sleep apnea, and then, of course, the hormonal changes. And that's why women end up needing a bit more sleep than men.
Okay.
And then we have, of course, sleep disorders. I just went over 4 that are the most prevalent, and sleep apnea. Gosh, I feel bad for people with sleep apnea, because the last thing I would want is to have to sleep with a machine. Most of the people that have sleep apnea are male and overweight. And then insomnia, this tends to be more women, because our brains are going in 10 million different directions, and that includes when we're trying to go to sleep. Usually these people, of course, have daytime impairments, like, fatigue during the day, higher risk for, car accidents and injuries and things like that. Then RSL is your restless leg syndrome, and that's a long-term. You don't hear it as much as the other 2, but it causes this strong urge to move the legs due to an unpleasant feeling that improves with the movement. So it might be itching. It might be like feeling like bugs are all over your legs. So everybody reports different things, burning sensations. And then, of course, sleepwalking, and that often occurs in the first 2 hours and can be caused by alcohol, sedatives, sleeping pills, or like some medical conditions, especially seizures. And then ways to improve your sleep. One is keeping a sleep journal. So for a couple of my clients, I've used this because it was so chronic. And so we journal, I have them write down the time they went to bed, how long it took to fall asleep, when they woke up, whether they got out of bed during the night or not, or woke up, how many times they hit the snooze in the morning, if they took a nap that day, how long it lasted. Like, we do this for typically 5 days. Whether you consume caffeine or alcohol, especially later in the day, if they exercised, and I have them put down the time that they exercised, what they ate and when, a rating of sleep quality. I have them do a 1 to 5. 5 would be they slept through the night, and 1 would be they were waking up every hour. Rating how they felt in the morning, whether they felt hot, cold, or comfortable. And just tracking these so that they can see different patterns. And then what we do is we pick 1 or 2 things to improve at a time. Sleeping in a dark environment, of course, because of that circadian rhythm, that's linked to our outside environment. So for people who do shift work and stuff, that's neither of us, but that they typically have sleep issues, but if they have thick curtains and blinds and wear a sleep mask, they can usually get out of those issues. In order to have a restful bedtime, our bodies rely on melatonin and serotonin. So we'll talk about supplements in a little bit that help if you're not producing enough of either. And the pineal gland is sensitive to any type of light, including LEDs from alarm clocks, computers, the glow from your phone or television. So as we all know, we're supposed to limit our exposure to light at night. And if you get up in the middle of the night, it's best to do so, if you can, without turning on any bright lights. And then secondly is sleeping in a colder room. I don't know about you. I try to, because my bedroom's on the 3rd floor, it's much warmer up there. So I literally have to set my thermostat at like 65 for it to be 68. And then all things noise. So just talking about like eliminating as much noise as possible, but there are people who also don't sleep well in that super, quiet, and people with really busy minds sometimes do better to have a noise machine, or you just, soft noise, nature sounds, things like that. And then of course, bedding, going into like the mattress, and a lot of people think, well, you know, mattress is, the quality is directly related to the cost, and that's not always the case. So really it's more about preference, whether you want something, you know, you do well with something hard, soft, or in the middle. People with back issues need a more firm mattress and have to be pretty strategic with pillows, which I'll talk about. Having good sheets is huge. Also that kind of, if you do get hot at night, that they're more moisture wicking and breathable. They have cooling bed pads now that even have different settings on, for like you and your partner. And then mattress pads can save a lot of money. You can buy cooling mattress pads and too. Then pillows. People who sleep on their backs need a pillow that supports the curve of the spine. That's like medium profile. Side sleepers need thicker pillows. So I'm a side sleeper, so I try to have a thicker pillow to support the head and neck. Stomach sleepers need a flat pillow. Anyone with back issues should try to have a pillow in between their legs if they're a side sleeper, underneath the knees if they're a back sleeper. But I've tried it. I'm a side sleeper, and I've tried the whole pillow between the knees thing, and it's never there. I don't know how long it stays there, but not long. Aromatherapy does, it has been scientifically shown to be super helpful, and that's just, related to our olfactory nerve, which sends the signals to our brain to calm us down. The ones that are the most beneficial: lemon, bergamot. I don't know why they didn't put lavender. Lavender is, right here. Yeah, it's up there. Lavender is probably the #1 aromatherapy for sleep because it's supposed to calm the nervous system, lowers blood pressure, heart rate, and skin temperature. And then all about nutrition. So kind of going against all of our, affinity for intermittent fasting. Our bodies are equipped with something called food entrainable clocks. And that's directly linked to our body's sleep clock. So in order for that to be ideal, it's best to have an adequate breakfast right when you get up. And then that also helps regulate hormones, including cortisol. So when we get up in the morning, our cortisol production starts increasing. And if we actually eat at that time, it increases even more so that we're more alert and have better energy. So what I said with intermittent fasting, I know that's challenging, but delaying breakfast can work against us. So if we're doing like an 8-hour window and we want to test out eating breakfast in the morning, we could do a 10-hour window and just then cut our eating time back a little bit at night. And then nighttime snacking. I think we all know that, like, eating at night, not only do we not burn it, but it triggers acid reflux, heartburn, other issues. And then I don't know about you, but I've always eaten before bed. So if I don't, I end up waking up I can't sleep because I'm starving. So, and then consuming healthy, unprocessed foods. Raw foods require less energy for absorption. So it's better to, especially the second half of the day, to ensure that we have predominantly unprocessed foods. And then caffeine and alcohol. Avoid caffeine the second half of the day. And then alcohol, of course, can make us sleepy, but it's kind of tricky because it also affects our ability to stay asleep and the amount of REM sleep that we get. Water intake is just saying to cut it off earlier in the day, so that you're not getting up to go to the bathroom. Yep. And then cortisol, we get into cortisol. That's, all the rave, like watch your cortisol. We actually really need cortisol, and we need a good amount of it through the day. It should be the highest in the morning because that's what gets us up, gets us moving. And then it should gradually decrease to a low point in the evening when it's time for bed. The problem is when we work out late, when we eat late, when we have late meetings, or things like this, our cortisol levels don't have the opportunity to go down, and that impacts our ability to get to sleep, to actually get to sleep and stay asleep. Cortisol and melatonin are inversely related. So when one goes up, the other one goes down.
Okay, that's interesting.
Deadlines, arguments, chronic stress, all those things. We try to keep our cortisol in check later in the day, especially. Moderate exercise is great, but should be decreased at night. Being aware of thoughts and minimizing negative and stressful thinking. So people that have embraced journaling, nighttime is a good time to do that. If you're doing it in a positive way. Relaxation techniques, meditation, yoga, massage, breathing exercises, doing more things that make you happy in the evenings, adopting a pet. We all know our pets most of the time decrease our stress levels. And then of course minding your diet. So things like dark chocolate and bananas, pears, green tea, probiotics, water, all are helpful to decrease cortisol levels. Just stay away from the caffeinated like dark chocolate and green tea in the evenings. And then we'll talk a little bit more about supplements. And then napping. So everybody's like, do I take a nap? Do I not take a nap? If someone has insomnia, they shouldn't take a nap just because it's going to affect them in the evening. But people that do well with naps, like I've always been a napper because I've always had a weird schedule. So every day between, like at some point between 1 and 3, I didn't today, but like most days, I'll take my 20 to 30 minute nap. And that's a power nap.
Do you just wake up on your own, or do you have to set an alarm?
I have to set an alarm.
Okay.
And of course, never after 4. I won't do it after 3 o'clock. And this was interesting, a coffee nap. They say to take a coffee nap, drink a cup of coffee right before it's time to nap, because it takes about 20 to 30 minutes for caffeine to get into the bloodstream. So also people, that's interesting because I have so many people that are like, yeah, I just drank a cup of coffee on the way to the gym, when really it's not going to hit you until you're halfway through your workout. Meditation naps. I've done many of these. I didn't know what they were called until I did this research, where I'll just lay there and just slow my breathing and just literally like de-stress. And I won't actually fall asleep, but I wake up out of my meditation. I feel better with meditation naps than when I actually fall asleep. Sleep trackers. I have my phone, and that's not very reliable. They have, and of course I don't wear a fitness tracker much, and I definitely don't wear one to bed, but they have one that I would be interested in that you actually put on your mattress, under your mattress. I'm going to look into that. Bright light therapy. It's most common for seasonal affective disorder. Now that I think about it, I have a SAD light. I didn't use it this winter at all. I think last winter I would have it on 30 minutes a day while I was working. Now what I'll do, if I start getting really tired, I have a lot of time in front of the computer and I don't have time to like close my eyes for a minute, I'll use my ring light. And it's so helpful because it just really illuminates everything and it looks more like daylight.
Hmm.
Because where I work, well, I should be working in my newly renovated office, but I'm not. So I work in my living area, which is very peaceful and calm, very conducive to evening, not really conducive to the workday.
Right.
And then, of course, meditation. I tend to not be very not supposed to judge my quality of my meditation, but I'm not much for traditional meditation. I do like guided. So sometimes I'll do apps, but that's number one best way to eliminate or alleviate, not eliminate, anxiety, and really, really helps insomniacs. And that is the Red Snake Temple in Thailand.
Oh,
And lifestyle habits, of course, smoking, and avoiding stress later in the day, which we talked about. Avoid hitting the snooze. I was always someone that never hit the snooze for any reason. And now that I have Alexa and post COVID, I find myself telling her to reset.
mm-hmm.
So that is a habit that I've been wanting to stop. So that's going to end tomorrow. And this is a way to retrain if you do end up hitting the snooze. What they do is have people lie down in the afternoon, set alarm for 5 minutes. Don't go to sleep, just lie in bed and relax. And then when the alarm goes off, get up and resume the day. And doing that over and over helps get, over that habit. And then setting priorities. This is a huge one for me. And this is always my mind is very busy after, a day like today. So the only way I can clear that is to set my priorities for the next day and kind of, do a brain dump and say, okay, this is what I'd like to do. These are the top three things, and just, okay, end of day. So, and then best supplements for sleep. Honestly, none of the supplements out there have been heavily studied. So, nor have any of them been that consistent. What they've found is that many of the studies, these top 7 that I'm going to go over, have shown to have a correlation to improve sleep. So melatonin, super helpful if you have jet lag or doing shift work, like when your sleep schedule changes, melatonin can be helpful. Valerian root, that is usually suggested when people have sleep disorder symptoms. Magnesium, that has a relaxing effect on the body and brain. And I use Calm. I don't know, Calm with calcium. So Calm has my magnesium, zinc, calcium, potassium. So I think it helps with electrolytes. It helps with it's got boron in it too. It helps calm the nervous system. And then the calcium, of course, as we get older. And then lavender, which we talked about, that's more aromatherapy. Passion flower, I'm sure you've probably seen like passion flower tea. Some of the teas you'll find that are like, nighty-night teas have passion flower in them. Glycine, about 3 grams, can be helpful. And CBD has some research suggesting that it can help. CBD folks will tell you that it does all things. Like you should do CBD. Having this, do CBD. Yeah. 3 additional supplements that have only been tested on animals. So tryptophan, which makes sense. Ginkgo and L-theanine. And I do believe, I've heard a lot of good things about ginkgo. I've also heard that ginkgo is really helpful with memory as we get older. And then over-the-counter sleep aids just goes into our basic like Benadryl, ZzzQuil, Unisom, you know, what that compound is, that no one should do these long-term, and people with any kind of like high blood pressure, heart disease, respiratory conditions should definitely avoid them at all costs. So short-term, if there's, you know, a reason that you're having sleep issues, it can be a short-term fix.
Mhm.
And that's it.